Welcome, dear children. So let's start from the very first lesson, plant diversity. You can see lots of plants here. Various kinds of plants, different colors, different kinds of leaves are there, and flowers, various types of flowers. So many differences are there. So we are going to learn about these differences. Right. We'll start from this. Plants. What do you mean by plants actually? Do we really need plants? Can we live without plants? What are the answers for all these questions? I know you know the answers. Keep that in your mind. See whether your answer tallies with what I explained. Right. Do we really need plants, children? Obviously, would say plants are very essential for the existence of living beings, right? Not only for us, but for all the animals, all the organisms too. Now here you can see in a mind map the uses of these plants. Medicines, uh, more than that. We'll start from the very first one, oxygen. Without oxygen we cannot live, right? We need oxygen to breathe and all the other animals too. Some microorganisms are there who can live without oxygen, but that is not needed to talk here. We are talking about organisms. They are the other organisms, right? So all of them need oxygen to survive. And food. We gain a higher percentage of our food requirement from plants. Then wood. We have a lot of items made out of wood in our homes. Then shelter, habitats for organisms, and they beautify the surrounding, and protecting water resources. Plant roots, they tightly attached to the ground, and their roots uh, protect the soil as well as water resources too. Then protecting water, that is the other one. Then medicines. We gain a lot of benefits from trees, plants. We can identify those from this mind map. I hope that is clear to you. You have learned all these things in your primary grades too. So hope you already know all these things. Plants are really essential for us. That is what we can get out of this. Okay, we'll move on. Right. If you went through the textbook, you might have seen all these things. Morphological features of flowering plants. What do you mean by morphological features, children? What do you mean by morphological features? Is that a new term for you? Maybe, right? Morphological means what you see from the outside, externally. Right. These are the things that we are going to discuss. We'll go through each of the morphological features one by one. Look at the first one. Plants are essential for the balance of nature and in people's life. We got to know that in the previous slide. Then, directly or indirectly, all the animals depend on plants. Some animals directly depend on plants and some indirectly. Now, in your previous grades, you have learned about carnivorous animals, herbivorous and omnivorous. What do you mean by herbivorous, children? Yes, I know you know the answer. Animals who depend on plant matter, maybe leaves, maybe fruits, anything out of plants, taken out of plants. Then who are carnivorous? Animals who depend on flesh of the other animals or other animals, right? So those animals are also depending on plants. That is what we mean by indirectly depending on plants. Now, you know food chains and food webs. In grade 6, there was a lesson to identify food webs and food chains. There you saw carnivorous animals are depending on other animals. So when you go down the food chain, you will see the initial stage, which is there in the beginning, is always a green plant which produces food. So always, directly or indirectly, all the animals, even carnivores, even omnivores, they also depend on plants. Then there are different varieties of plants in our environment. Just have a look now. There's an activity in your textbook. Observe the plants in your home garden and prepare a table by grouping the plants you identified and the plants given below into given categories. Right. You can do a little exploration. You can go out uh, of your room. Now these days you're so bored, we know. You're staying at home without doing any actively you're not participating in your lessons. So this is a good chance. Go to your garden and see what kind of plants are there in the surrounding. You might observed a lot of plants earlier. You might have observed, but you will see lots of other plants if you observe them. Observe the garden carefully, right? Uh, you will see now. Let's see. You will see these kinds of plants. Not all the plants given here, but some of them you will see. Uh, Most probably you will see these roses. This is very common in gardens in Sri Lanka. Roses. You can identify that, I think. Then look at this. What is it? Can you identify this plant? It is a type of fern. Fern. F-E-R-N. We call it ferns. Now, this is only one type. There are several fern plants. And that is also something common. Idr. Idr. This is gardenia. It is very fragrant. And this is balsam. We call it kudalu or punila. This is balsam. Then you can see these are some water lilies. Okay, now you can see 6 plants in this slide. Which of these are flowering and which of these are non-flowering? We are coming to those two terms now, flowering and non-flowering. What is this, Pute? Roses. Is it flowering or non-flowering? Yes. Is it a flowering plant or non-flowering? Obviously, you can see the flowers. It's a flowering plant. And ferns. You can't see any flowers here. And obviously, it is not flowering, right? Sometimes there can be plants without flowers, which are limited. Flowering season is maybe limited to a particular period. But here in ferns, in any season, flowers are not bearing. These fern plants are not bearing flowers, right? Then you can see idr. You can clearly see the flower, so it's a flowering plant. Then this is gardenia. It's a very nice flower, although it is just white in color. It is having a good smell, fragrant flower, right? This is balsam. You can see different kinds of balsam flowers. It's a flowering plant. Then water lilies. It's a very nice scenery to see these lots of water lily flowers in this lake, right? So lotus is a flowering plant. Now out of these, which is the only non-flowering plant? That is ferns. Okay, let's move on. What is the first one? Now there's a little bit of confusion between these two plants. This is called cannonball plants, right? This is usually we identify this as sal. This is the sal plant, the actual sal plant. You can see the flower. However, cannonball one or sal, in each of these pictures you can see flowers. So they are flowering plants. Now these are the seeds of this cannonball plant. It looks like a cannonball, right? Then this is curry leaf plant, and these are the flowers of curry leaf plant, right? So you might have not seen curry leaf, the flowers of curry leaf plant. That's why I specially put a picture of that. And here you can see the seeds too, right? So you can say seeds are there in flowering plants, right? Then you can see, what is this? This is very common in our gardens these days now, due to the COVID vacation. Most of you did gardening, right? Hope you have planted this in your garden too. This is called loam beans, right? That can be easily planted, and this is the flower of it. So is it a flowering plant or non-flowering plant? Obviously flowering plant. These are the in here you can see, this is the edible part. You can see seeds inside this. And in the previous slide I couldn't tell, here are cannonball plants, sal plants, and curry leaves plant. So all these are flowering, right? Alright, then this is what you have seen, these type of plants in uh, which are growing over other plants, which is growing on the stems of other plants. Have you seen? I hope. We call this drinaria, right? We call this drinaria. This is not bearing flowers. So this is a non-flowering plant. This is coconut, and you can see something very familiar in most of the festive occasions in Sri Lanka. This is the flower of coconut, right? Most of the people think it brings fortune, the coconut flower. There are lots of flowers in this. You can see the yellow color ones. So this is a flowering plant. These are the coconuts. These coconuts are result of this pollination of these flowers. Then these are salvinia. Is it a terrestrial plant or aquatic plant, children? It's obviously an aquatic plant. You can see water. This is growing very fast. Salvinia is a non-flowering plant. You cannot see flowers there. Then these are some cypress trees. They are also non-flowering. This is very commonly found in European countries, and even in Sri Lanka we have. What is this? This is shoe flower. It's a flowering plant. We need shoe flower, and this one, Katarulu, blue pea flowers. We need those in the 5th lesson. We'll come to that later. This is obviously a flowering plant. You can see the flower there. Then what are these? Those are pinus. Those are not flowers, Pute. Right? Those are seeds, but they are non-flowering plants, pinus. We'll come to that later because we are not going to talk much about non-flowering plants in this lesson. These are not flowers, so pinus is a non-flowering plant. These are just seeds. Then this is a mango tree. Flowers are not visible there, but I'm sure you might have seen mango flowers. Mango is a flowering plant. This as a result of pollination of mango flowers, these mangoes are coming, right? Then this is blue pea flowers, or we call it Katarulu. That is also a flowering plant. Now I want to test whether you have acquired the knowledge properly, whether you have kept all these things in your mind. Now here's the list. Take a paper or keep a separate book to you to do the activities which I'm giving you to do during these sessions. So look at the screen and draw a table and divide them as flowering and non-flowering plants. Just now do it. I want you all to do it just now. Otherwise, you will forget to do it later. Take a book, or for now, just take a piece of paper at least. Divide the 2 columns as flowering plants and non-flowering plants, and put all these examples into each of the categories. Right, look at the question. Prepare a table by grouping the plants you identified. I'll show the rest of the, right. Grouping the plants you identified and the plants given below into given categories. Rose, quickly do it now. Rose, fern, idder, gardenia, pinus, balsam, water lily, sal, lotus, ficus, shoe flower, long beans, curry leaves, katarolu, drinaria, jasmine, cypress, coconut, mango, and salvinia. Did you do that? Shall we check the answers? Here are the answers. You can tick the answers yourself. Flowering plants are categorized in this column, and these are non-flowering plants. The non-flowering plants are ficus, salvinia, cypress, drinaria, ferns, and pinus. All the other plants that we gave earlier are flowering plants. So you can see most of the plants that we see in our surrounding are flowering plants, right? There are less number of non-flowering plants. Okay. Now we are moving on to into the next part of the lesson to identify the parts of a flowering plant. I hope the previous part is clear to you. Now I hope you all can identify flowering and non-flowering plants. Right. Now this is also not a new thing for you all. You all have done this in your primary grades. We'll try to label all these parts. What is first one? You can give the answers. It is type of root, right? It's a tap root. You have learnt about tap roots and fibrous roots. We are coming to that later. We are going to study about them in detail too. Look at this. This is the tap root. First one is the tap root. Then these roots, what are they? Those are called lateral roots. This is the tap root, that is the main root. Other than that, lateral roots are found. These are the lateral roots. Number 2 is lateral roots. Now, commonly, number 1 and 2 are called what? What do you call these two systems found, two organs actually, found inside the soil? We call it root system. This is a typical flowering plant. Typical. What do you mean by typical, children? Now, that is taken to identify common features of most of the plants. Now, some plants may not have roots under the soil, like orchids, right? Roots are there in the air. So, but those are extreme cases. Those are deviating from the typical structure. So, this is the typical flowering plant, right? What you see in most of the places, common features are there. Right, so for number 1 and 2 are called root system. They are called root system. Both together we call it root system. Tap root and fibrous root. What is number 4? This one. This is the stem of the plant, isn't it? This is the stem. Then number 5, we call this lateral buds. You know flower buds, right? The flower buds which is found in sides of the plant like this, we call it lateral buds, right? Even the roots which you found in some the other sides, we call it lateral roots, not the main root. Then the buds which is found in the sides of the plant stem, we call it lateral buds. What is number 6? These are leaves. Then buds which are found on the top of the plant, we call it apical bud. Number 7 is apical bud. What is number 8? These are some branches, right? Number 9, these are fruits. It looks like a tomato plant, right? It's number 9 is a fruit. Number 10, flowers. Then Number 11, we commonly call all these things which are found above the soil, above the surface of the soil, we call it shoot system. Shoot system. Number 3 is root system. Number 11 is shoot system. Now check whether all these are correct. Number 1 is taproot, 2 lateral roots, then number 3 root system, 4 stem, 5 lateral buds, or we call it axillary buds too. There is a similar term. Remember them, Putai. Now you can keep a separate book, a small notebook to write the difficult terms. The new terms you find in this year, you can separately write them. Daily you will find a lot of new terms. Write the meaning, write the correct spelling and the meaning in front of that too. You can search it in the dictionary and find, and at the end of the year you will have a very good glossary, right? Then leaves. 6th one is leaves, 7th one apical bud, 8th one branches, 9th one fruits, 10 flowers, 11 shoot system. I hope this is easy. You can cover this part and try to identify each of these parts separately by yourself. Okay. We'll move on. Diversity among roots. Now, this is what we are going to see especially today. From the next sessions, we are going to identify the other features of plants. This is about roots. Mainly, there are two types of roots in the world of plants. First one, taproot. This is what we took as the typical plant, right? You can see lateral roots here and the main root, taproot. Then we call this type of root system a fibrous root system, right? They are looking like fibers, little fibers. This is the taproot system. This is the fibrous root system. We'll learn about them in detail, right? Functions of plant roots. Now, there should be a purpose of plant roots. Why the roots are there? They are doing a lot of things. They are fixing the plant to the soil. Roots are used to fix the plant to the soil. In this picture also you can see the plant is tightly fixed to the soil because of the well-grown root system. Then absorb water and minerals dissolved in water. You can see what do you see in this red color, purple color, yellow color and blue color? What are those circles? They denote different kinds of minerals, children. Nitrogen, magnesium, potassium, sulfur, phosphorus, calcium. There are so many different types of minerals. They are dissolved in soil water and plant roots can absorb them. So that is mainly done by plant roots. Then absorb water and minerals dissolved in water. So that is what we call by absorption. Involved in vegetative propagation. What is that? You can write that in your small notebook, the new term. Vegetative reproduction. We call it vegetative propagation too, right? We can get new plants by planting a root system of a plant, can't we? Yes, we can. We can plant a root of a plant and get a new plant. For example, curry leaves, bay leaf, breadfruit, right? We can plant a small plant of this and grow it as a big plant. So, the vegetative propagation is one type of function done by plant roots. Those are the main functions. There are so many other functions other than this. At least remember these three. These are the main three functions. We are coming to a very interesting topic now. We are going to identify about different types of roots and their functions. First one, what is the first one given there? Prop roots. The example is given as banyan trees. Hope you have seen banyan trees. The function of that is supporting the branches. I'll show you a picture later. Don't get confused. I'll explain that. Stilt roots. Stilt roots. These terms are very, very important today. You have to keep them in your mind. Separately write this and keep recordings of these types of roots. Then you will not forget. Pandanus or rampe. Pandanus is the scientific name of this. In English also we call it like that. Then rampe or pandanus, even bataceae. Those belong to this category, stilt roots. They support the stem. Stem is supported by stilt roots. Right, look at this. You will see prop roots and stilt roots. They are now no, typical plant roots are not like this. They are under the soil. These are some extreme conditions. You can see prop roots. Here, these are the branches of the banyan tree. Those branches are supported by these roots. Those branches are so heavy that can be easily broken. So that does not happen because these roots are supporting the branches. You can see it's a very nice scenery, isn't it? And these are some pandanus plants, Bataceae. You can find a lot of pandanus plants in near the beaches and all. See the root system of pandanus plants. They work as a helper, right? They are helping the stem. These stilt roots are helping the stem of the plant. Stem is very high. You can see very high stem is there. Without a support, it cannot stand still. So these stilt roots are supporting the stem. We'll see the next type of root, aerial roots. The best example is orchid. Roots are found in the air, right? You have seen orchid plants. I'll show a picture too. The function of orchid plant or aerial roots is the root system of orchid plants absorbing water vapor from the atmosphere. That is the main function. Then some other aerial roots carry out photosynthesis too. Some green color aerial roots are there in some plants. They can carry out photosynthesis. You know what photosynthesis is? Production of food by green plants, right? With the aid of carbon dioxide, sunlight, water, right? You have learnt all these things. So if the root is green in color, that contain chlorophyll pigment. If chlorophyll pigment is there in any part of a plant, even in the stem of plants, they can carry out photosynthesis, just like leaves. Okay, next one is climbing roots. Climbing roots are found in pepper and beetle. That helps to climb the stem by attaching to another stem. We'll see aerial roots and climbing roots now. You can see the aerial roots of orchids and climbing roots of beetles. See how nice this root system is. It is exposed to the air, and some roots are green in color, you can see, so they can carry out photosynthesis, and the main function is absorbing water vapor to the plant. You can see the beetle leaves here. They are at the creeper is attached to the this coconut stem. You can see this root system here. Those are called climbing roots. They help to attach with the surface that it is climbing, right? We'll go to the next type of root, that is respiratory roots. This is also something strange. Sometimes you might have seen, sometimes not. We'll see. I'll show a nice picture. This type of roots help in exchange of air with the atmosphere, right? And storage roots are helping to store food. Look at this nice scenery of respiratory roots. These are some Kerala plants. Right? Uh, these are the roots of Kerala plants. Now these plants are grown in near lagoon areas where a lot of salt in the uh, uh, water, right? So when there's a lot of salt, oxygen is dissolved less. So these plant roots need oxygen. So that is absorbed from the atmosphere by the respiratory roots. Now these roots have rised up. They have come out of the soil, and you can see something like this. They have come up, and these roots can easily absorb the air in the surrounding. So that's a very strange mechanism uh, uh, which they have got adapted to survive in this kind of harsh environments. There's a lot of salt in the water, so the amount of oxygen dissolved there is less. To get more oxygen, the roots have come up above the surface like this. Then these are some cork stoppers. Why did I put this picture here? Cork stoppers are made using respiratory roots of Kerala, right? In Sinhala we call it Kerala. I hope you have heard. Now these are, why can't we just use a rubber stopper? Why do we need to do this much of work to prepare this kind of stoppers? Because they are having very little pores, right? They are naturally there. So even harsh chemicals can be stored without any problem using these kind of stoppers. They will not react with the container. These cork stoppers, they are natural substances. They will not react. If we use a metal lid or rubber lid, that may sometimes come into contact with the chemicals in the bottles and make something else, something poisonous. So that is prevented when we use cork stoppers. They will not react with the other chemicals and it will not harm. So that is the use of respiratory roots. Then storage roots. Storage roots are there. Carrots is one of the examples. Not only carrots, you can find beetroots and some manioc, some other roots too. You can see how the food is stored in this root. Okay. Then roots with root nodules. What do you mean by root nodules? Now these are mainly found in mimosa plants and even in plants which belong into the family legumes like beans, wing beans, long beans, which belong to the bean family, right? And mimosa plant too. I'll come to that again. You can see the root nodules of a mimosa plant. So, what is the function of these children? Now, you can see small nodules, globular nodules here. Rhizobium bacteria is found there. Now, what is the function of rhizobium bacteria? It is fixing nitrogen. Now, it is difficult for the plant to, these plants which belong to the bean family as well as mimosa, difficult to absorb the nitrogen. So, these rhizobium bacteria make it easier to absorb nitrogen. It becomes easily available. Nitrogen becomes easily available for the plants to absorb because of this bacteria. So, the function of root nodules is giving some accommodation for rhizobium bacteria. That is the function of that. Those are very strange things found in the plant world. So that is the end of the lesson, children. I would like to come to the beginning and do a small summary which will be helpful for you. First, we learned about different kinds of uh, we learned that there's a different varieties of plants. Their flowers may be different from each other. Their leaves, then their fruits, so many differences. Then we learned about the uses of plants. The plants are very useful. We cannot live without plants. These are the uses. Then I ask you to do activity 1.1. Please observe your home garden and find the plants found there and classify as flowering plants and non-flowering plants. We call it morphological features. Features we found from the outside. We are learning about roots, leaves, flowers, stems, so many things, seeds, right? Uh, we'll learn about the other features. Today we learned about roots, the other features from the next video. Please do this activity freely at home. You will find a lot of plants you have not seen even. Then we learned out of these, ferns is the only non-flowering plant, and these are all flowering plants. And here out of these, Drinaria, Salvinia and Cypress were the only non-flowering plants. And here Pinus is also non-flowering plants, and the other three are flowering plants. Then we categorized all these plants as flowering and non-flowering like this. Hope you got all of them correctly. Then we identified the parts of a flowering plant like this. Then about the diversity among roots. We got to know mainly roots are divided as taproot and fibrous roots. And we learned about different functions of plant roots. Main function is fixing the plant to the soil, and the next most important function is absorbing the water and minerals dissolved in water. So these are the different types of roots. You have to remember the type of root given in this column and example and the functions too. We identified those, each and every root system. I hope it is clear to you. These are some exceptions. Okay, thank you very much for joining with me. I hope you will stay with me with the other lessons too. The second part of this lesson will be uploaded soon. So engage in work during these days. Don't be afraid. We'll be covering all the lessons till the end of the book. Now we have two parts in this grade, first part and the second part. We will cover all the lessons in both the parts. So stay with us. I wish you all a very happy new year. Thank you.